University. And before we get started, I'm going to wait a couple minutes to let some more people sign in. We're supposed to have a couple dozen of you, but I also want to have the opportunity to address those who have gone online at 1 o'clock to say that I'm the kind of person who, if I say I'm going to have a meeting that starts at 1, then I like to start the meetings at 1. That's the best way to get things done. And I've had a lot of, I've worked a lot in the business world and know that people's time is very valuable, and so I do like to get started. So it's now a couple minutes after 1, and so I will go ahead and get started because we have an hour here that I'll be talking. I have a bunch of slides to go through. I'll mention that they are available on the Applied Economics website so that you can print them out later on if you wish, or just look at them. And there are 80 slides. I'm not going to go through in detail about all of them, but I tried to make the slides comprehensive so that you would have all the information at hand when you are beginning to think about the program and maybe want to have some details at hand. I also leave time at the end of the online information session for you to ask questions. Many of you have emailed me and I have said, well, go ahead and participate in the online session, ask your question then, I'll be able to answer all of them. And I encourage people to participate in this session so that they can hear the questions from other people who are also interested in the program. And I'm very happy to have you online now and to talk about the program, which I love, and I think it's just a great program. So with that introduction, let me go through the slides here, and I may go rather quickly at times, but again, know that you can go back to them, and I'm trying to get it finished within the allotted time limit, including about 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. Okay, so now the only thing I have to do is be able to, there we go. As you can see from the slide here, that's me right there. I am Joanne Weiner. I'm the director of the Masters in Arts program, the MA in Applied Economics at GW. I have my master's and PhD in economics from Harvard University. I studied public finance, in particular tax policy and how taxes affect where companies invest. I didn't always want to be an economist. I initially wanted to work on Wall Street, so I got a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of California at Berkeley. I always get in a plug for the Bears, so go Bears. It's great to have both the West Coast and the East Coast, as well as a public and a private experience. I'm now an associate professor at GW, as well as the director of the program. But as I mentioned before, I have worked quite a bit before coming here. I did have a stint on Wall Street, which led me to study economics. But I worked at the U.S. Treasury Department. I've worked in the EU, for the EU in Brussels. I've worked at the Dallas and New York Federal Reserve Banks. And I've also worked as a journalist in Washington, both as a writer for the Washington Post and a tax analyst. And I mentioned I'm an expert in corporate tax policy. In fact, wrote a book about that based on my dissertation. So let me go into the program now. So that's enough about me. Why GW? And here's the list of the topics that I'm going to go through today. There are about 7 broad topics here. First, I'll talk in general about GW. Then I'll go into specifics about the Applied Economics program, some details about admissions and related issues, talk a bit about our students, the kind of work students do after that. And again, as I mentioned, leave time for a Q&A at the end. Here's a bit of information about GW. Here's prospective student info. We've got 15,000 plus graduate students, 2,500 plus international graduate students, full-time, part-time. It's a wonderful place to be studying. We have a campus right in the Foggy Bottom area of DC, and we have people from around the world and all over the United States. Why would you pick GW over all the others? Well, I think we have the best program available, but before I get into that, let me just talk about this sort of hashtag only at GW. That's a little bit of GW's marketing program, and what we do is we try to figure out, students have many places where they can choose to study for graduate school, so why come to GW? Well, we're in the heart of Washington, which of course makes us right at the center of economic policy offering. The law school we have here, we've got the public policy school, the School of Medicine, School of Engineering. It's fantastic to be here. GW as a campus, as a university, we have dozens of graduate programs and certificates. We have many professional schools. I neglected to also mention the business school that we have here. And of course, we have an internationally respected and recognized faculty doing all sorts of academic programs and research initiatives. Hashtag only at GW really means a lot to us here. Our campus is right there in DC's Foggy Bottom neighborhood. You can see the green arrow pointing to it. Off to the left is the Potomac River, and just southwest of that is the National Airport, where we tend to fly into. And you can see off to the east or to the right is the White House and many other government buildings, the State Department, Interior, and so on. And you can just barely see the beginning of the Smithsonian Mall there, where we've got the Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument, and so forth. And one thing that's also hashtag only at GW is we have our commencement ceremonies actually on the mall at the base of the Washington Monument. And that's a pretty cool place to toss your caps in the air when you get your degree. Let me turn now to applied economics. You probably have a broad question many students do. What exactly is applied economics, and what about plain old economics? I have a degree, of course, PhD in economics, a lot of theory, lots of math, lots of proof, very, very important for the PhD process, but that's not what we teach you here. Applied economics is all about applying economic theories and models to data to solve real-world problems. It involves using models and common sense to predict how economic events will affect economic welfare. One of my favorite topics to talk about is why have automatic checkout stations replaced workers in so many areas? That was the subject of my lecture yesterday. I actually teach the course in microeconomics to the graduate students so that I have every single applied econ student comes through my class. You generally do that in the second semester, so I get to know everyone personally. And we were talking yesterday about why are there so many, why are clerks being replaced by machines, and why did it take so long? What was necessary for it to happen? A big part of that is not just technology, but also the cost. If a machine costs a whole lot, you're not going to adopt it, even if it is going to save work there. So that's something that we focus on is to look around and see economics all around you. How does inflation affect company sales? My forecasts, are inflation measures good? Do we need to modify them? It's a lot of fun. I should also mention that one of my favorite topics of research is to look at the impact of Uber and Lyft on the economy. And whereas many people see this ride sharing as really a great innovation, they can get to where they want without having to wait for the metro or a bus or ride a taxi. And I look out and I say, oh man, there's Ubers everywhere. It's so congested. It's one big traffic jam. So it's all in how you look at it. Anyway, so applied economists do a lot of fun stuff. We research and analyze economic issues, do surveys, work in the public and private sector, advise policymakers, and more. So that's something about economics. So come to the program, study applied economics if you're really interested in finding solutions to problems that exist in reality and not just in theory. Do you want to see how government policies affect the way companies do business? And do you enjoy using quantitative tools and analysis to shore up your research? I stress that because one thing that companies are looking for more and more these days, and more than ever, is do you know how to use a statistical package? Can you analyze the data? With the advent of Google and databases online, we have, as economists, we have the ability to really get in and use our tools for econometrics and statistical analysis to tease the stories out of the data. And that's very, very important. That's why applied economists are a step above someone who doesn't have the analytical and statistical tools that we teach everyone. And you can apply these tools in any number of areas. I happen to be very interested in the financial world and in taxation, but there's also marketing, income inequality, development, trade policy, and so on. You name it, and you can apply your economic tools to it. So one thing I also want to point out is that you might think, well, but I'm thinking I want an economics PhD. That's a perfectly fine thing to do, but the applied economics MA is not a step on the path to an economics PhD. It does prepare you for a PhD in other areas, such as public policy, but if you want an economics PhD, then go to the economics website, look at the facts there, and figure out the differences between the two programs. And if you really want to study for a PhD in economics, then go pursue a master's degree in economics, not one in applied economics. So let me tell the details about our program here at GW. And by the way, the photo here is of a classroom over at the business school. Key elements, I'm going to talk about the learning objectives, our basics, the core curriculum, electives, and then the graduate certificates that we have available. So you're going to learn how to measure the impacts of government programs, analyze and forecast trends in economic indicators, present an economic analysis using quantitative methods and theoretical models, Here's a key point, number 4 here, make effective public presentations using modern data visualization and communication tools, and explain real-world economic phenomena. Those are our main objectives, those 5 objectives there, and you get those in the combination of all the classes that you're taking. The basics of the program, many of you probably already know these basics because you've been to the website, but let me just go quickly through them. We have 10 courses, 6 core courses and 4 electives for a total of 30 total credits. Most classes meet once a week for 2.5 hours. Full-time students generally complete the program in 3 semesters plus 1 summer course. And you may study full-time or part-time, and about half our students are working and half are not. They're going full-time. Many are working while studying for their degree. And I also want to point out that our Applied Economics Master's program is a STEM designated program. And that's very good for students who are coming from outside of the United States, because it gives you an extra period of time during which you can work in the United States. Logistics about the program: students often work in groups to develop their skills in communication and leadership. I'm the director. I meet regularly with students, both individually and in groups. I mentioned that one thing that I think is very important is that I get to know everyone and how you're doing, and to get feedback from you on how to improve the program, what's not working, what is working, help with career advice. I write a lot of letters of recommendation, and knowing you as a student helps me craft a better letter for those who are interested in getting a job or going off to graduate school. Our courses are generally offered in the evening. That helps for people who are working, and electives are offered in the day and the evening. And you can find all this information about the courses and the syllabi on the website, and the link is there. Go to the curriculum and syllabi tab. So again, I like to send people to the website. I spend a lot of time updating the website and putting the key information there so that you can go and find all the information you need. And I've got all this information about admissions requirements, tuition and funding, certificates, facts, and so on and so forth. So please go ahead and poke around there and look at everything. But of course, if you can't find anything, go ahead and send me an email, and you can find my address there, both on the letter and at the end of this presentation here. So there's just a picture of the website. That the photo there, we had a video made. It's a sort of a push for the program, and that's one of our current students there, Steve Legrand. He's actually working part-time, working full-time, I'm sorry, while he studies part-time in the program. So our main courses are in mathematical methods, applied micro, which I teach, applied macro, probability and stats, applied econometrics, and applied time series. Those are the 6 courses that all students take. If you've already have sufficient skills in some of these areas, you can perhaps get credit for them, and so you don't have to take it. We have a student who's already has a master's degree in math, so she did not have to take math methods for economics. But those are all things that you can email me about, or after you decide to come here, we can work on looking at getting you credit for these courses. So again, just to summarize, there's the 6 core courses, and then you have 4 electives for a total of 12 credits. Each course is generally worth 3 credits. 2 of these electives are in economics, and 2 may be from other schools: School of Public Policy, School of Business, School of Public Health, and the School of Engineering and Applied Science. Plus, you may take other electives with permission, and in areas like data science, mathematics, other areas. So if you're studying full-time, this is what a typical program would look like. You would take 3 courses in the fall. In your first semester, math, macro, and stats. Second semester, my course in micro, econometrics, and one of your electives. Third semester, you take time series, your final core course plus 2 electives, and then you stick one in the summer, or maybe take 4 courses in a semester. We have a wide range of electives. Here's a list of some of them here: financial derivatives, game theory, managerial economics, behavioral economics, industrial organization. We have a rotating set of electives that we offer, and I try to get a schedule that's on a 1 to 2 year schedule so that students can plan their program from day 1. Again, I mentioned the curriculum tab. You can go there and just click on the blue highlights. You'll get a copy of the syllabus. It's not necessarily the syllabus for the current semester, but it does give you an idea of both the content, the course requirements, the schedule, textbooks, and so on and so forth. Electives that are outside of the applied economics area are also pretty abundant, and here's just a sample here: benefit cost analysis, policy analysis, international macro and finance, law and the public administrator. Like I mentioned, one of the things that's nice about GW is that we do have a full university here, and we have more courses that you could ever possibly be able to take. But that means that if you really want to specialize in something, you can probably find the course taught at GW in one of the schools. Another example of electives that are outside of economics that I mentioned are eligible for the program are data mining and data science. We have a lot of students who are interested in learning more about data science, and those are courses that you can take for the master's program, the master's degree. We have walkable urban development, which has been one students are interested in, this investment analysis and portfolio analysis, so on and so forth. And the abbreviations there on the left-hand side by the course name just refer to the program that they're generally in. So DATS is data science, for example. Another thing that's very important is knowing how to communicate. And one thing that I did with the university writing program here is to develop an oral and written communications workshop where applied economics students can develop their communication skills in a range of settings and formats. This is an 8-week optional course that meets for 2 hours every other week. We're offering it this every semester, and students who take it find that it's just fantastic because they're learning all sorts of ways to communicate in a formal setting, in an informal setting. They do presentations and they get critiqued by it. The workshop is limited to 15 students a semester so that you can get that attention from the instructor that helps you polish your skills. And one thing it does is you learn how to explain complex economic concepts in a clear and accurate manner. What's very, very important as an applied economist is being able to explain your ideas to a range of audiences, whether it's a highly technical one where people know the details of the issue like the back of their hand, or if it's a broader audience where you just need to get the general point across. And you have to be able to, as an applied economist, know how to speak to your various audiences and understand what's there. It's a course that like as I mentioned, the students who are taking it just find it's perhaps the best thing they've ever done is to learn these skills. And a lot of programs don't emphasize the importance of learning how to communicate. We just sort of assume you're going to develop it over time. I will mention that my work as a journalist has taught me the importance of being able to communicate clearly. And so I try to pass that on to our students. And I mentioned that the workshop meets the requirements for the Certified Business Economist professional certification that I'll talk more about later. And we developed the workshop in coordination with that program. You also have to know how to do quantitative analysis. So it's a fundamental component to applied economics. You've got to be able to figure out, how to measure something. So you want to know, well, is this trade policy this new tariff that's going to be going on to aluminum and steel, how is that going to affect my industry? What's going to happen to my company? Suppose you're a steel purchaser rather than a steel seller. Is this going to be good or bad for you, and by how much? We tell you how to measure those amounts, and there's this sort of saying that if you can measure it, it matters, and that there's a lot to be said about that statement. That people want to know the size of it. Is this going to have a big impact or a little impact? How do I know? For example, is $10 billion a big number? Well, $10 billion certainly is a big number for any individual if that's what your net wealth was worth. But $10 billion is not very big relative to the size of the U.S. economy, which is now in the several trillions of dollars. So again, you need to know how big is it relative to something else. And a strong background in math and statistics is essential to becoming a good economist. And that's, in fact, why we have all those courses in the quantitative area. And that's why we are a STEM designated program, because we do stress quantitative skills. So you've got that there. We have a lot of resources for developing your quantitative skills. They're not required courses, but we offer a lot of workshops in various statistical packages. The university itself has a full set of workshops, and you can find more information by going to STEMworks, and there's a picture of what the website looks like. That is something that I really like there. And you can see here, for example, at the bottom, the upcoming event, which was upcoming last month, but Introduction to SPSS for Data Analysis. It's fantastic. So let me talk a bit about some of the additional initiatives that we have beyond the basic core program, the graduate certificates, the NABE, and becoming a CBE. Graduate certificates provide specialized training for you where you can expand your area of expertise, augment your professional skills, and give you a credential that helps advance your career. Students who have a dual enrollment in the Applied Economics Master's Program and a graduate certificate, you may be able to obtain credit in the MA program for up to 6 credits or 2 courses taken to meet the requirements for the graduate certificate. And that's a very nice thing because most graduate certificates require 12 to 15 credits, and you may double count up to 6 of them, which means that, for example, if you look at the bottom bullet point there, that the data science course, 2 of the data science course counts for the graduate certificate in data science and as an elective in applied econ. So you can get both the MA and the graduate certificate with 36 credits instead of the 42 credits that would otherwise be required. So you get 2 degrees, the MA and the certificate, for the price of 1.5. And that's a pretty good deal. And as an economist, I always like to save money. We right now have dual enrollment in these 4 broad areas: budget and public finance, data science, environmental resource policy, and geographical information systems. We're developing one in international science and technology policy and in other areas. And we also have a number of certificates that we're working on with the business school. So here's a typical plan of study if you were to study for the MA in applied econ along with the data science degree. So you'd start out in the MA program, year 1, fall and spring, you do your regular program, and then starting fall in year 2, you start doing your data science courses, and then in spring, you would finish up with the data science certificate. You don't have to follow that order there, but it is an order. It is a program that would work for you to finish both degrees in 4 semesters, by contrast with getting the MA degree in 3 semesters. So 1 more semester, another degree, another certificate. I mentioned the graduate business certificates. Those are done in conjunction with the business school, and we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them in place. Again, it operates in the same way. You can double count up to 2 courses taken for the business certificate for your applied econ master's degree. And again, I stress that's one of those only at GW features that makes our program be attractive. Same idea, plan of study for the business analytics certificate. First year, fall, spring, second year, fall and spring. And you just pay attention to your credits. You'll notice that on the business program, there are a couple of courses that are only 1.5 credits. So you would take 2 courses instead of just 1 there. More info on the certificates. Click on all these links. You've got the slides available, or you can just go and Google them and you'll find them. But you'll find more detail about the certificates and the various programs themselves. Finally, I'd like to talk about the Certified Business Economist Professional Certification. That's something that we've partnered with the National Association for Business Economics, or NABE for short, to offer students the opportunities to earn simultaneously your MA in Applied Economics and the CBE Professional Certification. And that CBE is becoming more and more important. It's a verification that you have the skills, the knowledge, the ethics, and the dedication to deliver value in the workplace. And it's our core courses provide you with the main body of knowledge you need to qualify for the CBE. You supplement those core courses with the elective in managerial economics and the workshop that I already discussed in written and oral communication. You take and pass the CBE exam, and you get a couple years work experience, and you're going to get this certification. You will see that more and more business people are identifying themselves as being a CBE, and that just indicates they've taken this extra step to get the credential that shows that they've developed these skills. Admissions and related issues. Many of these, if you've already applied, you've already dealt with, but let me just talk about some of the prerequisites, the deadlines, and a few facts about admission. You should have earned a bachelor's degree from a 4-year university with a minimum cumulative GPA of 3.0 or better on a 4.0 scale, a B grade or better in intro micro and intro macro. So if you took econ as a freshman, you probably meet that requirement. And if you earned a B, we also require college level calculus, a B- or better. Many applicants wonder whether they say, I haven't taken calculus, what can I do? And I advise them to take something online before applying, or you can apply and then take the course and indicate somewhere in your application that you are meeting this deficiency by taking those courses. For me, the application is enhanced by the letters of recommendation and your own personal statement about why you want to study applied economics. And I read all of the applications, and so that meet the minimum requirements. And I learn a lot about the students who are applying and what kind of, whether this really is the right program for them. So I stress your essay really matters a lot. And it doesn't have to be 500 words. It can be longer. I don't want a novel, but if you have a lot to say, go ahead and say it. You do not need to submit GRE scores. Obviously, if you have really good GRE scores, you can go ahead and submit them if you think they'll help your application. But there's no difference. I don't make any distinction between an application with the GRE or without the GRE. I don't assume your scores were bad if you don't submit them. We don't require them, so I don't expect them at all. So as I mentioned, if you don't meet any of the prerequisites, you can take these courses online, take them in the most economical way possible, and get the minimum requirements. And note somewhere in your application that you're doing this. Send me an email if you're not sure whether the course meets the requirement. And I also want to point out that you don't need to have an undergraduate degree in economics to apply for the MA. It does help because it indicates you know economic thought, but we get a lot of applications from people who studied business, people who studied public policy or political science. We don't get so many people in the hard sciences, but we are getting more and more of them because even a biologist or a chemist would see, hey, I need to know some applied economics. If you're applying from as an international applicant, there are English language requirements for you. They're listed here. TOEFL of 80 on the internet-based test, and the IELTS with those scores there. I'll note that you have to have a minimum of 80 to be considered for admission. If you're applying for any financial awards, your minimum needs to be 100 on the internet-based TOEFL. So just keep that in mind. And by the way, there's no flexibility on that. If you don't meet the minimum score, you will not be considered for admission. So if it's 79 and everything else is great, I won't even see your application because it won't come through. Application deadlines, they've already passed for this fall for financial awards. The deadline was February 1st, but they were still open until April 1st for admission this fall without financial awards. We also have admissions for spring, and the spring semester actually begins in January, and that deadline is October 1st. There's absolutely no difference between starting the program in the fall or in the spring. We offer all 6 core courses every semester, and since students are on full-time or part-time basis, there's not really a designated class that you're in. You will have your first semester class, but then after that, you'll be mixed up and jumbled with all of the students. So for additional information, just go to the graduate facts page, and I put a whole bunch of them together for prospective students to try to deal with any of the questions that you guys would have about the program. I put together the facts on the previous page to address specific questions about the MA. If you have general questions about graduate admissions, there's a graduate admissions fact on the general GW EDU site. So please go there before asking me, because I will probably just direct you to this page if you have specific admissions questions. I tend to not be involved. I'm definitely not involved in the formal application process in the sense of where do you send your transcripts, or a letter of recommendation is late. Ask the admissions office people that, not me. I focus on the questions about the program. Financial assistance, this is something that's it's on the top of many applicants' minds, which is, how do I pay for my degree? Well, the most important thing to do is to apply before the February 1st deadline for fall admission and click yes on the application. That automatically puts you in the pool of saying that you'd like to be considered for this. Merit-based awards are open to all applicants, and so just go ahead and click that. We also offer financial awards for starting in January, but there's only one deadline for the spring admission, so that would be October 1st. If you're listening to this now and you say, oh gee, I missed the deadline, I want to delay applying for admission in January instead of in August because of the financial award, that's perfectly fine to do. I don't have any idea about how, I mean, I do have some idea, but financial awards, we don't give everyone who requests financial aid assistance. Part of it is based on the application and the need and so on and so forth. But we try to encourage applicants who have a financial need. We try to provide some sort of funding in cases where it's merited. Need-based financial aid, you have to be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or refugee to apply. There are lots of funding opportunities, and you can find this information over, again, on the website. Everything that is underlined and in yellow has a web link to it. If you actually download the slides, there will be a hyperlink there that will send you off to that area. We do have a couple of awards that are specific for certain institutions. One is a Minority Serving Institution Award. It gives an application fee waiver and a tuition award of at least 40% to qualified students. To be eligible for it, you have to be admitted to the master's program here and eligible, going to receive your undergraduate degree from an eligible MSI at a certain time. And selected MSI institutions are listed on this sheet here. Howard University here in Washington, D.C. is one of them. Florida International University, Bowie State, Morehouse College. The website has the whole list of institutions. This is just a selected list that I put it here for this slide. Other financial assistance that we have is designed specifically for students in the applied economics program, and it's these kinds of awards are the ones that I've been working with the economics department to offer to our applied econ students. And I'm very happy to say that the econ department is very much, they would very much like to provide financial assistance to students who are eligible for it, because it's a win-win situation for everyone. Good students here get to earn a little bit of money, and the economics department gets students who are helping them out with teaching or grading or so on and so forth. So we do provide assistance for graduate students here by working as a grader in the econ department. I have a couple of students doing that now. Students who work as a research assistant for a professor, a couple of students doing that as well. You can get a job on campus, and campus jobs, I believe, are available to both U.S. citizens and international students. And then finally, we're developing a program to give financial support for students who are working at an unpaid internship. We don't want to discourage people from taking a great internship because they need to earn money. And so we're working on providing some financial assistance in that area. So let me talk a little bit about international students. I don't know how many international students are on the line. Our time is now 1:34 in Washington, D.C. So if you're in Europe, it's about 7:34 at night. But if you're over in Asia, I believe China is a 12-hour time difference. So it's about 1:30 a.m. Anyway, welcome to the online info session here. International Services Office can help reduce the administrative challenges when studying in the U.S. or applying here. Go to the ISO website for all the information about the visa and what to do when you arrive. It's right here on campus, and you got to know the academic requirements you must meet for the visa purposes. English for Academic Purposes is an English language program that designs to help international students learn the academic English needed to complete their program. They focus on academic research and writing, and you have to take this, and your admissions letter will provide details on the EAP. So if you do get a letter that says, okay, we want you to take this course, you'll do that in your first semester here. As I mentioned earlier, to be eligible for funding, you must have the minimum of 100 on the internet-based TOEFL, and on the IELTS, no individual band score less than 60. If you have one of these two types of visas, you may supplement your classroom experience through working, and you have to get the proper employment authorization before you start working. I will mention that I tend to not make any decisions on whether something is compatible with the visa, because that is something, the rules change often enough that it's the ISO that will give you all the information there. For international students from certain areas, GW does offer a specific, there's a specific funding initiative. And when we fully believe, and I am one of those, as I go through the applications, I try to reach this goal, is I want people from different backgrounds. I want people who have different history, speak different languages, people who have worked and people who have done all sorts of things. I want to get people like that into the program. GW has this graduate funding initiative to encourage people from around the world to come to GW. And you can get a tuition award of up to $20,000 per academic year. And I will mention that tuition at GW, each course, it's about 3 credits, costs a little bit less than $5,000. So you can see that to take your 10 courses, you're going to spend $45,000 to $50,000 on tuition. you get a tuition award of up to 20,000. That's getting you almost halfway there. So you have to be here on an F1 visa and admitted to and enroll in an on-campus master's program. And obviously, Applied Econ, we are on campus, and so our program does qualify for that. You have to be on an F1 visa, not an F3 visa. And if you're from any one of these countries here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, from Bangladesh to Vietnam, you're eligible for this international funding initiative. And I have seen the awards coming through for the upcoming class, and it is a very nice letter to get from the admissions office saying that you've been given this award. So if you're from one of those countries, you'll be eligible for this graduate funding initiative. You won't necessarily get it because it's the pool of funds is not unlimited. But it's nice to know that it is there. And I mentioned earlier our STEM designation. We do have that designation, which means that after completing 1 year of your OPT, international students have the ability to extend their position for an additional 2 years through the optional practical training program. That's very nice. Again, for details, contact the International Services Office. And there's another program available for international students. It's called the Curriculum Practical Training, or CPT. And after you have been studying for a minimum amount of time, you're eligible to go out and get a job. So those are all very nice. So let me talk a little bit about students here, where you're from and your career plans and what you studied. Each incoming class has about 20 to 25 students. I try to keep it on the manageable side so that the professors can get to know all of the students. And I try to balance it between men and women. I get applicants, sometimes it's skewed more in one direction than another, but I try to get a balance there. I also try to balance between U.S. citizens and non-U.S. citizens. I think that there's an advantage to having, as I've mentioned before, a wide range of international students represented. And I try to keep the mix so that I don't get too many students from one country at the expense of another. So I try to get a balance across students from around the world. I don't control where people apply from. But when I do see the applicants from these broad areas, I'm very happy about that. Many of the international students actually earned their undergraduate degree in the United States. That means that they're used to the U.S. system. It doesn't mean anything other than that they have a degree from here. It doesn't make them more or less eligible for the program, but it's just an interesting fact there. And I also have a mix of students who have recently graduated from college and those who have years of work experience. I like students who've had work experience because I think that it helps them to see how the economics really works. And also they've spent some time not being a student, but also students who come straight out of college, they say, well, I'm just eager to get my degree and I want to hit the ground running with my graduate degree, and that's fine. That's why I try to get a nice mix. Again, there's no favoritism for one or the other. It's just I'd like to get a mix. And I mentioned earlier, most students did, in fact, study an economics or an economics-related field, but that doesn't matter. And if you weren't in one of these fields, your essay, is a good place to explain what is it that attracts you about applied economics and all. I like people from who have undergraduate degrees in many different areas. Again, if you're history, English, or what have you, you bring another perspective to the program. What do our students go and do? Many come here because they want to move up in their current job. They see that people around them have skills that they lack, and so they come to get their degree. Other students are interested in changing careers, and they see this as a way to move into a field that is growing. With the amount of data out there now, it's just a phenomenal time to become an economist and learn how to analyze the data, again, to find to tease out the story that's in the field of the forest of data. Many students work, and during the summer, most students are working either as paid or an unpaid intern or they take classes. As I mentioned before, we do have some funding available for students with an unpaid internship. Here's a site for the GW graduate student site. What kind of careers do people go and do? Well, if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you'll find that economics is a growing field, that median pay of nearly $100,000 a year in 2015. Good economists have strong analytical communication, critical thinking, writing, and math skills, and that's what we teach you. Economists can do a whole bunch of things, and I would point out that here in points 4 and 5 that strong quantitative and analytical skills tend to have the best job prospects. you go to a company's website or you go to the website of a government agency like the Congressional Budget Office, you'll see that they're looking for in the skills that we're seeking. Oftentimes they state specifically experience with STATA or experience with R or good quantitative. And many companies hire outside economists as consultants. And in fact, it's a fast growing field for economists. Where do people go work? They work all over the place. Here in Washington, we've got government agencies. If you're a U.S. citizen, that tends to be a place where a lot of people go, and not just at the federal level, but also the state and local. I didn't mention, but the World Bank and IMF are just steps away from GW's campus, and I have a couple of students who are working at the international organizations while they're studying, and that's very convenient for them. Go to the websites for the IMF, the World Bank, and the IADB, and see what kind of skills they're looking for. And many of our students go and work there, but also they go into research, they go into media and communications, they go all over the place. It's really a very practical degree. These final slides here, before I get to the general discussion, just tell you what economists do. Behavioral economists, econometricians, financial economists, IO economists, international labor. We, by the way, have a fantastic labor economics professor. He used to work at the Department of Labor. He's now at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and our students just love him. Our macroeconomics professor was nominated for a teaching award this past year, and that's a phenomenal, that's a fantastic credit to him. And our teacher for math and derivatives is always ranked as the favorite teacher of the students. So we have a great set of instructors in all these areas, and many of our instructors are working in their field. So we have Treasury economists teaching about tax policy, for example. Career Services, GW is a very active service for Career Services Office, and they send out a regular newsletter. They give all sorts of coaching, career coaching, interview, resume review, and you have access to a wealth of job-related information via what's known as the handshake. It's the online system. They have all sorts of fairs throughout the year, and one thing I would like to point out again is that we are the careers tab over on the NABE website has a lot of information about potential employers and skills they're seeking. Our partnership with them is very good. In fact, it was just I was over at the conference the other day, and my contact at NABE said that she says that the GW partnership with NABE is the gold standard. So that's nice to hear. Student life. You'll have fun here at GW. The campus is a great place to be. We've got all sorts. There are undergrads running all over the place, playing frisbee. I looked out my window and it's a little gray now, but they're still out there in their t-shirts and shorts. There's a lot of stuff to do here. We've got basketball teams, sports teams, activities, theaters, plays, speakers. President Obama came and did a taping of the Daily Show, I believe it was, a couple of years ago. It's just a great place to be going. We've got Metro all over. If you can read this map here, we are at the Foggy Bottom site, there's an orange, blue, and silver stop, the last one in the district before you head out to Virginia. And there you can see the connection with the airport. All sorts of food, sports, and fun. We call DC, Maryland, and Virginia the DMV. There's all sorts of stuff here, lots of free stuff. The Kennedy Center is just steps away. It's got a free show every night at 6. The Nats, the baseball team, the Washington Nationals, every fall has a GW student night where you get a special package and you go and get a cap with the GW logo in the Nats form. It's a great place to be. All sorts of things that you can do, and you're going to find there's more to do than you have time to do because you're going to be studying a lot as well anyway. So what's next? Go to the website to find more information. If you have any questions, send me an email. I'll say my email. I'll spell it for you, jmweiner@gwu.edu. That's my first name, middle initial, and last name, jmweiner@gwu.edu. Questions about the program, questions about admissions, send one to Ask CCAS for questions about that admissions process. CCAS is the Columbian College of Arts and Sciences. It's within the GW University. It just, the econ department is in the CCAS. So ask CCAS@gwu.edu for questions about admissions, and to me, jmweiner@gwu.edu for questions about the program. And I thank you for listening to this session. It's about 1:46, and I will now be able to take questions from you. I think you type them in. I will repeat the questions so everyone has them, and yeah, and answer them. So thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure speaking with you. While waiting for questions to come in, I'll just banter about on things that I remember. I'll point out that our classes are offered on the main Foggy Bottom campus, and we have a variety of technological capabilities for our classes. They all have the ability to use PowerPoint. We have GW Wireless, so you can get access to the web at all times. There's a very vibrant undergraduate community. Our library is excellent, so you can get that there. Here's a question. Will we be sent a copy of the slides? No, but you can click on the Applied Economics website and download the slides yourself. You go to the main page there and click on it's the same place where you registered online for this. The slides are listed there. I can barely read these questions here. Okay. Karine, can you help me here? Oh. Let's see here. Are most of the classes in the evening? Yes, there are 6 core classes, and all the core classes plus all of the applied economics electives are offered in the evening from 6:10 till 8:40. The only exception is the micro class, 6301 is my class. I teach it in the afternoon from 3:30 to 6. But yes, most of those classes are even. There are some electives that are during the day, but our program is really designed for people who are maybe working in the day. And I have students who work and then everyone has to take my class. They manage to work it out with their employer to get time off to be in class by 8:30. Okay, and the next question is, thank you for the informative presentation. Can courses from a GW certificate in systems engineering be used as electives? Well, courses that are taken in the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences are eligible. You can take 2 of the courses taken there can apply for your non-economics electives. So I think the answer there is yes. I'm not, if I have the right question, the answer would be yes. There was another question in here. Let's see. It's nice to see some of the people here, some names I recognize. I appreciate the applicant who read my paper. I noticed that. I take notes on the applicants, so I know who's. I don't see any more questions here. How many students are typically in a classroom? The classrooms, my class in applied micro, we have 18. I have 18 in my class. Electives have to have a minimum of 6 students for the course to be offered. So the smallest number, the fewest number of students will be 6. There are no really large classes. There's a cap on enrollment of, I believe I put the cap at 25. Students who are not in the applied economics program are eligible to take classes, but applied econ students have priority, so you'll never be locked out of a class because other students are taking it. So they're generally pretty small classes, 20 to 25 students. And again, one reason I don't know the exact numbers is because, say I have an entering class of about maybe 20 to 22 students. Students who are going part-time won't be taking the full-time schedule. So I don't know exactly what the numbers are. Hi. I'm from Ghana in West Africa. My questions are, would I be considered for the International Graduate Funding Initiative? The conditions for being eligible for that are actually on the website, and I believe you need to be here on an F1 visa. So if you have an F3 visa, you're not eligible for it. But in general, if you meet the criteria, then you are eligible for it. And would I be considered for, how do I become a research assistant? The research assistant process is basically there's professors who are looking for students, and I ask my students, how did you get that research position? And many of them say, well, I asked around or someone told me about it. I'm trying to get a better sense of which professors might want to have research assistants, and that'll be something I'm going to be working on over the summer to try to get the econ professors to let me know if they want a research assistant, and that way then I can better match up the student with the professor. But that's a great way to learn how economic research is done, earn a little bit of money, and also help out the professor. Third question, do some schools accept the applied economics MA for a PhD because I want to pursue the PhD in economics as well? On that score, I'll have to tell you, you need to look at the specific PhD program to see whether or not they accept it. I don't know the answer to that, other than at GW, the applied economics master's at GW does not qualify you for the PhD at GW, but I'm afraid I don't know what other universities might require for the master's. So just take a look at the PhD programs at other universities you're interested in, and you'll find the answer there. Okay. What would you suggest to someone who is interested in pursuing a master's in economics but does not have a solid mathematics background but completed a business statistics and Calc 1? Well, the first thing I would say is master's in economics is not the program that I'm running. This is the master's in applied economics. If you're interested in a master's in economics, that's a very theoretical, very math-heavy program. I have a master's in economics from Harvard. I have the math. In fact, I was always very good at math. So yes, I would recommend you take a lot of math before you apply for a master's in economics. For a master's in applied economics, your math skills don't need to be at that level, because our interest in applied economics is having you learn how to understand the math. So I am continually telling my students who are really good at math that, yes, I know you know how to do the math, but you know the economic implications of your results. So when they get a first order condition, they've taken the Lagrangian and solved it for the optimal, the factor demands. I say, so what does that mean? What happens when prices go up? And if they can't interpret that, but they can say, well, let me do the math, I say, but you've got to know the economics, not the math. So for applied econ, and that's a general issue across all sorts of programs, is that the math is a tool that you need to use. You need the math to be able to read the literature and understand it. But to be in applied economics, you really have to understand what does the math mean? And that's what we teach you here. So let's see. Another question. Calc 1. I don't know if I answered all the questions here. How do I become a research assistant? How many research assistantship positions are typically available in a given year? That is an answer I don't know, because many of our students get research assistantships from other departments, like in the business school. And I don't have the tally for the numbers in economics. I do know that we have enough funding for research assistantships, and I suspect that there will be an ability to match the number of research assistantships with the students. And the main issue will be, are there professors who want to hire RAs? So that's going to be something I hope to get a better handle on from the other professors in the department as time goes on, and to be able to make that information available on the website. So, okay. So thank you. That's a good question. How many students in a classroom? I have not received funding notification until now. So you may not have the proper visa, or there may not be the funding pool. I don't know. Again, that's a question for the admissions office, not for me on that score there. Okay, what is the alumni network like? We have a great alumni network for the econ program. I would mention that we are just completing we're in the middle of our third year of having the Applied Economics Master's program, so we don't have a lot of alumni yet. But one of the current students has created a LinkedIn group for the Applied Economics students so they can stay in touch. I know that there's an alumni event twice a year. I always attend, and all applied econ students are invited to go to that event and to meet fellow alumni. I actually met someone who is associated with NABE at one of the alumni events. He got his PhD at George Washington University. And through him, his son actually got interested in the program, and his son is now here. So the Alumni Association, it is very involved, and it's a great way to both network and to socialize. And the range of alumni events it's usually there's one big event where they have a main speaker, and then there are smaller cocktail parties and things like that throughout the year. What would you, okay, I did the math question already. Will we be sent a copy of the slides? Oh, I think I'm doing these backwards. The slides are online. You can download a copy there. Let's see. I don't see any new questions here. I'm reading the question here. You mentioned the job opportunity within the university, such as a grader, research assistant positions, etc. Question: is there a separate applicant for this, and what are the requirements? The programs I mentioned, the becoming a grader, becoming a research assistant, and then the one for the unpaid internship. The first two, the grader and the research assistant, you basically let me know that you're interested, and the econ department lets me know which professors are interested in having someone grade their assignments. It's usually for an undergraduate class. There's no formal application for it other than letting me know. For the internships, there is a formal application process. We're in the middle of developing the criteria for being eligible for getting paid for an unpaid internship, and that's stuff that's going to be happening over the next few months and should be up on the website later. The grader positions, what's nice about them is that you get to know a professor, but you can do the grading on your own time. You're not doing any teaching, and so it's the most flexible of the options we have. And the students who are doing it now are really enjoying it. For the research assistant, you're actually doing more work for the professor, so you actually get to use your skills there. It'll be a little more time consuming. You actually would then have to meet the professor's time. And of course, for the paid internship, you'd have to have the internship ahead of time and go through the application process, because that's a limited number of positions. I would like to say, but I can't promise, that there will be either grader or RA positions available for any students who would want them. Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions here? There's the job opportunity one. I should mention that the payments for unpaid internships would tend to go to people who don't otherwise have funding, because we like to help as many people as possible, but that's not, you're not prohibited from applying for one just because you have funding, because there's a full application process. Okay, I see my little question thing blinking. Okay, questions. Any more questions here? I still have 12 people here, so I'm happy to keep on answering questions as long as you have questions, I can sit here and answer them. I love this program and I'm very enthusiastic about it. And it gets better and better every year because we're able to apply more bells and whistles to the program, and a lot of those come from feedback from the students, which I will say that since I teach that course, and I'm always surveying everyone to find out how can we make the program better, and we implement those suggestions. We're very much of a hands-on, and it's a the consumer is you guys, and you're buying our product, and we want to sell you. We want to give you what is going to help you the most in your career, and you'll get it here. So let's see here. So